Consider 1 bromopropane, CH3, CH2, CH2Br. Draw a Newman projection for the conformation in which CH3 and Br are anti. So a Newman projection is a shorthand way to represent our molecule, and we will learn how to draw it right now. And the first thing that I will do is I will draw my molecule out. So I have 1, 2, 3 carbons. So I have 3 carbons, CH3, CH2, CH2, and then this one has a bromine. And what I'm going to do for my Newman projection, they didn't tell us what carbon to look at, but they did say that we're going to have bromine and CH3 coming off of. So I'm going to look at this carbon and this carbon. And I'm going to draw my Newman projection. So for the Newman projection, I draw a circle. And if the Newman projection that I have to draw is either anti or gauche, that means it has to be staggered. Staggered Newman projection is when my substituents are at a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it like that. So if you want to draw a staggered Newman projection, we draw it this way. If you wanted to draw eclipsed, in eclipsed Newman projections, my substituents are right behind one another. So something like that. That's how we would draw eclipsed. But we're drawing staggered here because we're seeing the word anti and gauche. And for staggered, we have to draw it spread out. Let's say that this is one of the carbons. This is carbon 1, 2, and 3. And let's say that I'm looking at carbon number 2. And carbon number 2, what kind of groups does it have attached to it? So carbon number 2 has a CH3 group, which I'm going to put right here. And it also has 2 hydrogens, which I'm going to put here. And you can put them in any order you would like. It doesn't matter. You will be fine. Now, behind, so this is my carbon 2, and this is the substituents that it's attached to, the groups that it's attached to. Behind carbon 2, there's carbon 1. So carbon 1 is right behind carbon 2. What are the groups that carbon 1 is attached to? So carbon 1 is attached to bromine, and it's also attached to 2 hydrogens. I can put these in many different ways, but if I want to draw it anti means opposite. I want to draw 2 big groups opposite of one another. So on carbon number 2, my big group is CH3. So opposite of it, I'm going to draw bromine. And these 2 must be the hydrogens. So this is my anti-conformation. So in my anti-conformation, it's a staggered conformation. So I draw my groups spread out from one another versus eclipse that would look like this. And in the staggered conformation, the 2 big groups are opposite of one another. CH3 and Br here are as far away from one another as possible. I also know that my carbon 2, this is the carbon that I'm looking at, it has a CH3 group and 2 hydrogens. So that's why I drew CH3 groups and 2 hydrogens. And this carbon had 2 hydrogens and a bromine, 2 hydrogens and a bromine. So this must be my anti-conformation. That's part A. Now let's go ahead and draw part B. What about gauche? Well, gauche is when 2 big groups are next to one another. But again, they're both for staggered conformation. So again, I draw my conformation staggered like this. And I'm just going to keep the front carbon the same, CH3 on top, 2 hydrogens. And how could this be gauche? Well, the bromine could be, instead of going here, instead of being down, it could be next to it. And these could be my 2 hydrogens. So that would be one gauche conformation. You can see that the 2 groups are next to each other, so it is less stable because they're bumping into one another. Now, let's go ahead and do the other gauche conformation. How else could I draw it? Again, I'm going to keep my my carbon number 2 the same. And what other way could I draw this? Well, the bromine could be on this side, and again this would be gauche, two big groups right next to each other, and these would be my hydrogens. So this is a gauche conformation and this is a gauche conformation. And let's go ahead and do C, which of this is the lowest energy, and C is the lowest energy because it has big groups opposite of one another, as far away from one another as possible. So it is the lowest energy. And then which of these conformations, if any, are related by reflection? So we can see that if we reflect this conformation, we will get this one. So the gauche conformations can be related by reflection. This is Mayya from Transformation Tutoring, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video.